I had a friend contact me and tell me that he bought this 2003 Torch Red Mach 1. Beautiful car, low miles, less than 100,000 miles on it. It was in Phoenix, so it's a nice dry desert car. And we got to talking about the car, and I said, "Oh, I know that car because I was looking at it." The guy who sold it had owned it for quite a while. The interior was in beautiful shape, the car looked really nice, and the price was really good. This was actually before the prices all started going up on these. You could see he needed a new hood stripe. That was the number one thing he wanted to do, was replace the hood stripe on the car and start ordering some parts for it. The other thing he didn't really care for was the short shifter that was in it. He didn't really like the handle, and I don't really like that style either. I like just the normal short shifters you can buy for these cars. But he was really excited to get the car, and he was asking me all about lowering springs and exhaust and the things that I've done to my cars. He wanted to see what my opinion was and ask why I liked what I liked. And he said he'd like to get a Borla exhaust for it. We talked about SLP and Borla, and I really like that. I think that was a great choice. But then he started to have some problems with the car, and this is where it got a little interesting. He messaged me and said, "The fuel pump's on its way out. It wouldn't start this morning, so I lightly banged the tank and it fired up." And he asked, what should I get, Motorcraft or aftermarket? And I just recommended a replacement for Motorcraft. And we got to talking about that, and he was really nice in saying that between me and my brother, he sees us as the New Edge Encyclopedia. I thought that was very nice of him to say that. So we talked back and forth about different clutch options, the Mach 1 AFS wheels. We talked about exhaust like H pipes, X pipes, back and forth. And then all of a sudden he messaged me and he said, "My Mach 1 broke down in LA right after getting it to my brother's house from Phoenix where I bought the car. It was intermittent. Sometimes it would start and run fine, then it would start and instantly die. I had my brother take it to a trustworthy shop, since that's where they were in Southern California. He lived in Northern California, so he just had really no choice but to let the shop work on it. And they replaced the crank sensor and a $300 multifunction relay and said it was good to go." And so this whole time he had been going home to Northern California because he had to work and do things. And so he decided to take the family in a one-way rental car, go down, get the Mach 1, and drive it home because he figured everything was fine with the car now. So he got down there to Southern California. They drove the car for about 100 miles, just around making sure that everything was okay. And then he filled it up with gas, and instantly it died again, and it would not start. So again, he had to go back to work, so he had to rent another car for a one-way, go back to Northern California with his family, and he just had the Mach 1 towed to a dealer in Long Beach who said they could check the car out in the same day. 3 days later, there was no word from Ford, so he called them and he was complaining, and they basically said the computer won't tell them what's wrong, so they don't know what to do with it. So at that point, he said, "You know what, forget it. I'll bring down my F-250 on Friday, rent a U-Haul, and tow it back to my house by myself." So he did. The fuel rail had pressure when he cycled the key, and he asked me, "What do you think's wrong with it?" And I was thinking, it could be this or that. It could be, fuel rail pressure sensor. It could be the pumps. But he said he replaced all that stuff. And there's a lot of things that would yield a crank no start issue. And so my response to him was, at this time, I'm puzzled. I can't believe that there's fuel in the rails. It sounds like a bad fuel pump. And all the other things like the crank position sensor, they already changed. Everything I've encountered before was already fixed on the car, the pumps and stuff. And so it was really hard to determine what was wrong with this car. He was saying that the thing that made him the most angry was he spent $500 at a Ford dealer and they didn't fix the issue. And so I don't think he had replaced the fuel pump yet, so I said, "Oh, it could be a dying pump, but if you check the rails and there's pressure in there, then I don't know what else it could be." So the next two guesses for me were the FPDM in the trunk, which is the fuel pump driver module that controls the pumps and everything. I thought maybe there was a burned up wire in there. You never know what it could be, or it could just be a bad FPDM. So he says, "Yeah, exactly. I cycled the key, it cycled, and everything seems to be fine as far as that goes." We talked about the fuel rail pressure sensor that's on the rail. We talked about the CCRM that's in the fender. And then he started thinking, you know, I was probably shafted when I bought this car. The guy probably knew there was something wrong with it, and that's why he got a good deal on it. And maybe that's true. You hear all the time when people say, I sold it because it had a lot of problems. I've heard that so many times, and I can't believe people say that. But anyway, he got to the point where he talked to other shops and everybody, and they all said you should probably just buy a new ECM, a new computer for the car. And I had suggested, one of my friends had a Mach 1 that was totaled, and I said you could probably get it from him. You'd need the key as well. You know, there's a lot of stuff you'd have to transfer over. But a few weeks had gone by, and so I messaged him and said, hey, how's the Mach 1 doing? Did you figure everything out? He said, man, it's been a nightmare. I sent the ECM out for repair, and 3 weeks later, it was sent back to me unable to be fixed. So I bought a new one, fully programmed, and USPS lost it in the mail. He talked to them and they said that it was returned to the shipper on a certain date, but they have a terrible customer service and he wasn't getting anywhere with them. So he called Ford and said, can I just buy a new one from Ford? And Ford responded and said, sorry, we don't sell anything that old for those cars. We don't sell the ECMs anymore. We don't have any more. So we talked about him trying to find another used one and having it wiped clear and all that stuff. And then a little bit later he messaged me and said, well, good news, the shop near my hometown are 4-valve experts and they are also electric repair specialists. I talked to them this morning and they are super cool. They really want to help me figure out the issue. The shop owner said it's extremely hard to fry a Ford ECM and most shops just don't know how to troubleshoot them properly. So anyway, my friend decided to trailer it down to them and leave the car with them and have them look over everything. Then he messaged me a little bit later and said, well, I'm definitely impressed with this shop. He said, I pulled in there early in the morning and there was a Redfire Terminator, another Torch Red Mach 1, 2 GTs, and an old Fox body on his lot. He's a great guy. He loves these cars. I unloaded the Mach 1 off the trailer and he immediately started troubleshooting it. This is the 4th shop that my car has been to with no luck. One being a massive Ford dealer especially. And he couldn't believe that they would be clueless on what was wrong with his car. So he said he started to leave and he barely made it out of town and the guy called him back saying, I figured it out. Rodents had got underneath the shaker and chewed onto some of the wires that communicate with the crank sensor. So anyway, he had the car fixed and running perfect by the end of the day. So he's finally got his Mach running and he's really excited. He said he wanted to leave it there and have the shop put some 410s and a new clutch in it while it was there because he loved the shop so much and he might as well do that while they had the car. So I was so excited for him to finally get the car running and be able to enjoy it. This is a beautiful Mach 1 and it is really hard to diagnose an issue when there's something like this going on with it where wires have been chewed by a rodent and there's no way to fix the car without knowing that. You could buy every sensor for the car, replace every part on the car, and you're not going to get anywhere until you find out that problem. So great shop. That's really good that they had done that and figured it out, and they did some really good troubleshooting with this car. So you can see he added the Mach 1 hood stripe back on. Great choice. I really think that the car needs that. I think it looks so good with it and it looks factory again. So next thing he did was buy some 315 wide tires, the same Nittos that I have on mine, and the AFS wheels for the rear. Excellent choice, as well as a brand new Borla Stinger catback. Very good looking, very good choice there. And he also did the honeycomb deck lid panel on the back. And I had done that to my Torch Red Mach 1 as well. So here he's just putting the AFS wheels on and enjoying the car. So I'm very happy for him. I think he got a really nice car. It's really too bad that it had so many issues like that. A lot of people get discouraged, and a lot of people even fix a car and then they get rid of it because they had such a bad time with it, even though it's fixed now. And so it's really too bad when people get discouraged like that, and it's just something that needs to be figured out. So I thought this was a really interesting story. I really love the Torch Red Mach 1s. This was the Torch Red Mach 1 that I had. I really loved this car, and it was very similar to his now with the same wheels and the honeycomb deck lid panel, everything. So Very nice Mach 1 story here. I was really happy to have mine when I had it. But anyway, I just wanted to share this with everybody and talk about such a crazy issue. My other yellow Mach 1 that I owned previously, the shop had changed the polarity of the uh, ignition coils. And so that was something I had to figure out. And they had the 0 ohm high output ignition coils on that one, and the shop had swapped some wires around, and they repinned them all, and it was just so difficult to figure out. So I've been through some of that kind of stuff before, where you would never know because everything looked factory, and it's so hard to diagnose a car sometimes when you're not getting the full story or having an idea of what was wrong. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this story, and stay tuned for more Mustang content.